My last question is this. Can
Mm-hmm.
you speak to the experience of this? This is how I'll say it. So when I reached out to a couple of different close friends who are African American to have this dialogue about Ahmad. And
Mm-hmm.
more than three of them said to me, Kelly, I appreciate what you're doing, but I am just so tired. I'm exhausted and I can't participate is what they were saying to me, which I honor and I'm so thankful for their good boundaries. But I've been thinking about that so much because it seems like in every dialogue I've had, someone has said something like that to me. Every African American has said something like, I'm just exhausted. I'm so tired. And then the second thing that I'm very aware of is the um, the sort of tendency among like white people to say to African American people, teach me, like educate me. Like I need you to tell me what I should do. And people who are African American are saying, that is not my job. Like I don't have to teach you. And so I appreciate like deeply both of those things. That this exhaustion and this I don't have to, I'm so tired of teaching you. Like Rachel, one of my dearest friends and coworkers said, I'm so tired of like teaching you white people. She said it to me like that. And I was like, I completely appreciate that. Like, thank you so much for saying that. It helps me understand a little bit. So could you speak to maybe like both of those realities,
Yeah.
particularly
Yeah.
to people like me who don't want to be annoying, but want to be an ally, but sometimes I don't know how to navigate other, maybe it's just as simple as Kelly, just respect people's boundaries. It's not about being, I mean, I don't know. Could you speak to either of those two things?
Yeah, I think that hmm. So, a couple years ago, all these different Black women in particular on Twitter were starting to put invoices out, and they would like tweet an invoice. They would give like a talk about racial justice or some social justice related topic, and then there'd be like or respond to some thread, and then there's like an invoice, right, of like, this is how much you should pay me for my labor.
Yeah.
I say that to say, um, there are people who are doing the labor of, who choose to do the labor and who have the capacity to be anti-racist educators, to be racial justice activists.
Yeah.
Um, and that is not simultaneous with a Black identity or with an identity of color.
Okay.
I have chosen to do the work, and I don't always choose to do it. But other people, I think about a couple folks that are on Twitter, a couple folks that are on Instagram. So I would say that there are people who are doing the work that you can always, especially in a social media world, you can always connect with
Yeah.
them and compensate them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Send
good.
them stuff on their PayPal, their Cash App, their Venmo. Even if you're just reading their tweets, you should buy their book when it comes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
probably buy a copy of it for all 10 of your friends. You
That's
should set
good.
a copy of it in your coffee shop at your church.
That's good.
You know, so I would say find those people that are doing the labor, who have committed to the work, and don't impose that up on people who don't.
Yeah.
Because it's traumatic when Black people are dying. It's traumatic. I mean, when people die, it's traumatic when a man running dies on video. I sent two of my closest friends 2 days ago a text message that said, I need you to remind me that this is not the end.
Yep.
Because, and so I say that just to say, realize that people are having really visceral experiences with this, that are unlike, right, the area of, you know, post-emancipation lynching, right? That is not different necessary, you know, completely different from police brutality and violence against from the state in other iterations, and that is able to be actively recorded, which for some, right, for in some ways that is hopefully going to push us into more an era of accountability. But also, I know that I want my children to grow up in a world in which they are not scrolling on Facebook to people who look like them being shot in the street.
Right.
So it's a complex reality to engage, find the people who are doing that labor, compensate them for that labor. And then I think there's the reality of relationship too, of a really good friend of mine who is a white man, probably one of my best friends, just sent me some money and was like, hey, you should go get takeout.
Yeah.
So you know, and that doesn't seem like a big thing, but the day after Ahmaud, all this stuff was happening, it was.
Yeah.
So look for those ways, I think, to come alongside. Look for everyday realities. Yes, this is happening. We need to talk about Ahmaud. We need to talk about even Nina Pop, and we need to talk about there's a lot of Black death that we need to talk about. And because I want to lift that it is not just Ahmaud, right? And it's also important that, in particular, white folks, but any folks that have privilege, you know, as an able-bodied person, we have to interrogate everyday interactions. Like the interrogation of what happened, how whiteness, how racism, how supremacy, how sexism, whatever the ism is, plays out is easier when everybody on Facebook is doing it. Yeah. It's not as easy at 2:30 on a Monday in the board meeting.
Right.
And so committing to interrogating and to thinking critically about solutions consistently is also what I would be what I tack on to that. So I know I've said a lot in a little bit of time.
That's so helpful. That's so helpful. And I love the language of interrogating interactions.
Yeah.
And don't you think, I mean, tell me if this is what you're getting at. Like that to me seems like that has to be done in community. Like to interrogate interaction, it has to be a safe enough space where you can engage in that dialogue about how one person perceived what you said and how and so there's opportunity for like forgiveness and openness, and but so many of our boardrooms and churches and like those are not safe spaces to interrogate interactions. There's all these no-fly zones.
Yeah. And I mean that in particular to, I'm making words up over here. In particular to, no, I was gonna say I mean it in particular to one-on-one relationships, but I don't. I think that is something that happens in accountability with other white people, other people in a particular group. That's not other men if you're a man. But also it happens on this broad scale, but it also is like the ability for your friend of color to tell you something and you be able to receive it and to say, well, and to not even internalize it, right? I'm an awful work person and go into like fragility, but to go into where was I socialized by sexism, whiteness, whatever, to do this thing.
Yes.
And to think critically about what is the way forward.
Yes.
You know, I posted after the run with Ahmaud, and I said, you got to keep you need to keep running.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's cool. You went on your 2.23 mile run. I love that because I think the family or some member of the family wanted that to happen. And I need you on May 21st to still be running.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think about, because the race is not for the swift. Yeah. But for the one who endures. Yeah. And that it's going to take the same level of outrage, of course, with contemplative practices and ways of taking care of ourselves on both sides of this.
Yeah.
But it's going to take consistency, dedication, perseverance.
Yeah.
And I think people are really going to get an opportunity to practice it, as with with these cases, because what we're going to see in the next few days is we're going to see the media in particular. There's going to be a lot with the media, a lot about his character, a lot about what he might have been doing, why he might have deserved. Right? There's going to be a lot of opportunity to interrogate.
Yep. And
so I think when folks find themselves saying he was trespassing, so he deserved it, or even getting to those ways that one's mind may veer, there's opportunity to start that work of interrogating.
Yeah.
Why that's even a thought.
Yeah.
Right? When a mother had to go through a Mother's Day yesterday without her child. Why we're even willing to let our minds go to the point of saying he didn't I read something about he didn't obey orders. Right? And I said, well, civilians can give orders now. Right. We've got to interrogate, right, how civilians now can give orders. Yeah. That if you don't comply with them, it costs you your life.
Right. Well, and I think a really helpful piece, somebody, I don't know who it was, probably a number of people were saying, what if the roles were reversed? Like, what if there were two men who were African-American, got in a truck, got their gun, and chased down a man who was white, who was jogging? Like, would anybody be questioning what the white man was doing? No.
Yeah.
So I think that's so helpful. Interrogate our interactions, think about our thinking, become curious about where we got these ideas, how was I socialized to believe this? Like, if every person can do that, like, that'll be one thing you can do. Interrogate your, yeah, I think that's so helpful. So helpful. Oh, Brittany, thank you so much. Tell us real fast where we can find your work, where we can find you, and I'll link to all of it. But
yeah. So you can find
social media, all that.
Yeah, so you can find me. My public page on Facebook is Brittany Taylor Pascal, or Brittany T Pascal, and on Twitter you can find me at BT Pascal, BTPASCHALL. Same on Instagram. Everything on the web, including my newsletter, which is called Delta Doris and Sarah, is at btpascal.com.
btpascal.com. Okay. I'm going to let everybody know that because I know that my friends are going to want to find you and follow your work. You are just so precious. Your fire, everything you're doing is important. And again, thank you so much for sharing this
afternoon with me.
Thanks for having me. We'll see you later.
See you.